Hi everyone, welcome to Tanya
and Tianna
English. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Tianna. And today we have a few fun games to help you practice your English in a fun way. So stay tuned.
Like Tianna said, we have some games to share with you today that will help you to practice your English, and hopefully they'll help to make it a little more fun or at least a little different. We have 4 different games. All of them can be played with 2 or more people, and some of them can be played with 1 person. So we'll jump right in. The first one is a game we call Random Number. I read an article a while back that said that even when people who are learning a second language become more and more fluent, they still have difficulty with numbers. So this game is pretty easy to play with 2 people. You can also play it by yourself if you find a random number generator. When we decided to play this to learn our second language, we looked online and we found a random number generator at random.org. And what that does is when we say it generates a number, it gives us a number that is random. In other words, it's not something we know before it generates it.
Yeah.
So I have random.org pulled up on my phone. I'm going to generate a random number, and then I will say it in Spanish, which is a language Tianna and I are both learning. And then she will tell me the number in English, our native language. So if you were doing this, you would generate a number. One person would say it in English, and the other person would try to say it in your native language. Mm-hmm. Or if you were doing it by yourself, you would find the random number and see how quickly you could say that number in English. So, all right, generate a random number. Okay, here is the first one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
8,315.
8,315.
Very good. That was very quick, too. Now, I have played this game before on a conversation exchange. So what I mean by that is that I have a conversation exchange with a person in Spain. They want to learn English. I want to learn Spanish. And so we get together on Skype and we do the same thing where one of us will say a number in our native language and the other person will try to say it as quickly as they can in the language that they are learning.
Yeah.
Another thing is that for things like dates or years and phone numbers, different countries will say the numbers differently. So, for example, in the United States, when we say a year, like 1993, we say it just the way I did, 1993. We do not say 1,993, even though that is the correct way to say the number. When we're referring to a year, we say 1993. Yeah. Now, in some other countries actually will say the number like 1,993. And also in the United States, our phone numbers are grouped into 3 groups of numbers with a hyphen in between them. And when we say numbers, we group them differently when we're saying a phone number than we would if we were just saying the number. So for example, if it's a group of 3 numbers, let's say 271, we would not say 271. We wouldn't say my phone number is 271 367. No. We would say 271 367. Now we might say 367 or 367.
Yeah.
But we would not say all 3 numbers like 367. Mm-hmm. Also, when we have the group of 4 at the end of the phone numbers, so for example, the 4 numbers might be 9283. We might say it like that, 9283. Mm-hmm. We might say 9283, but we would not say 9,283. Mm-hmm. That's a correct way to say that number, but not when we're saying phone numbers. Okay. All right. Did you have something to add for that, or you?
No.
Okay, we got that one. Okay, what's our next one?
Our next game is called Crazy Story. And basically what you do is you just take turns saying just one word to make a story. And sometimes it can get kind of crazy. So hopefully it gets crazy, because then it's funny.
Right. Or if you're just learning, maybe you don't want it to be crazy. Maybe you want it to just be correct. But either way, you can play this game however you want. Let's give an example.
All right. So there
Was
a
frog
in
the...
grocery store. The grocery.
She cheated because she said 2 words, but we're going to let it pass. So far we have, there was a frog in the grocery store.
Yep.
And it's my turn. Who
Was
not
supposed
to
jump
in
the
cereal?
oh.
When
He
was
on
the...
counter
he
jumped
over
the
donut? So you can see how you could go on and on with this. You can play this game to make a crazy story, or you can just play this game to try and make correct sentences. All right. The third game is what we call 21 questions. This is very popular in the United States, but we have adapted it so that you can use it to learn a second language. I'm going to let you hold this. I have chosen a person, place, or thing, and I'm going to share it with you all, and so that you and I know what it is. And Tianna gets to Tianna gets to ask 21 questions to try and guess what this is. Now, there's a rule to the questions she can ask. Why don't you tell them?
It has to be a yes or no question, meaning that the question that you ask has to be able to be answered only by yes or no.
So it's always a person, a place, or a thing. Now, if you chose an animal, that's not a person and it's not a place. It's more like a thing. But it can be a person, place, thing, or animal. You can decide how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, has to be a yes or no question. I'm going to cover her eyes up so that she doesn't cheat. And here is the person, place, or thing that I have chosen. Okay? Now, did you see it?
No.
Okay, I don't want you to cheat. All right, she gets 21 questions, so I'm going to keep track of how many she asks. Go ahead.
Is it a person?
No.
Is it a thing?
Yes.
Is it an animal?
No.
Is it something you would find in our house?
Yes.
Is it something...
Slow down just a little.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Is it something in the kitchen?
No. Good question.
Is it a piece of furniture?
No.
Is it a book?
No. Now, a little note here. She can guess to see what it is, but that counts as one of her questions. So, or she can keep asking questions about it.
Is it a if it's something in our house? Is it a car?
No. Is there a car in our house?
In the garage.
Well, not in our house. But go ahead.
Is it a piano?
No.
Is it a painting?
No. I'm going to give her a hint of a very common question. You could ask, is it bigger than, or is it smaller than something, to get the idea of how big it is. So go ahead.
Is it bigger than oh wait, no. Yeah. Is it bigger than a bread box is the one she always says.
Well, when I was a kid, is it bigger than a bread box was a very common question. A bread box is a usually a fancy box that people would keep their bread in. It was usually wooden, and that way they could keep their bread on the counter and it would still look nice. And did you say, is it bigger than a bread box?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Okay.
Do women use it?
Yes.
Oh. Is it a brush?
No.
Oh, that's not sometimes bigger than a bread box.
Yeah, the other thing about this is you have to remember all your questions. And another little hint, just because women use it doesn't mean I just answered yes.
Do men use it?
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Is it, do children use it?
Yes. So we're at 15. You have 6 more questions.
Let's see. Is it, in the living room?
No.
Is it, I can't think of something that's
You've only
not
asked 2 rooms so far. You could ask that.
Is it in a bedroom? Maybe.
Yeah, ask specifically. Is it in, if you're going to ask in our house, ask specifically so that I can answer the question. Okay, ready? Go.
Is it in my bedroom?
Maybe.
Is it in your bedroom?
Yes.
Is it, it wouldn't be a chair. Is it, oh, I said furniture already. Is it a shirt?
No.
Is it a piece of clothing?
No. Okay, she has 1 question left. And I will admit, I purposely chose something that was a kind of tricky. It's not a common thing. Well, it could be very common depending on where you live. But for us, it's not very common. So that's a hint. You have 1 more question. Do you want to guess?
For us, it's not very common. I don't know. Is it a lamp?
That's very common for us.
I know, but I don't know.
Ask another question about it.
If it's in your... But I only have 1 question.
Yeah, that's true. What's not common for us?
Normalness? I'm just kidding.
Is it a snowblower, say?
Oh, is it a snowblower?
No.
Yeah, because it's not... Oh.
The reason this is not very common... The reason this is not very common for us is that in Arizona, it doesn't rain a lot.
No.
We do have several umbrellas, though, because we travel a lot, and also because we do have a rainy season called the monsoon season. So you kind of see how that game goes. You could pick something that is easier, especially when you're using it to learn a language. I made it more difficult because we both speak English, obviously. Okay, you can play 21 questions online. You can Google 21 questions, and there are several sites where the computer will choose something and you have to guess the questions. So that's a way that you could play this game with 1 person. Or you can have teams. You could have 3 people or 10 people on each team, and then they have to decide what their questions will be. So, all right, let's go to the last game. It's more something we just started using to learn our 2nd language. So we started calling this the phrase game. I got a list of phrases from a group where I learned my 2nd language. And these are very, very common phrases that are used in language, especially in English or the language we're learning, Spanish. And what you do is one person tells the very common phrase from this list in the second language, and the other person tries to tell a scenario or a time when you would use that phrase. Okay.
Yep.
So we're going to do this in English, even though that's our native language. But this way you can see how you would do it in your target language, English. Okay? So I'm going to say a phrase which she obviously knows, but we'll give it as an example.
Yep.
Okay? So the phrase is, I have no idea.
So maybe if we're at the store and you say, do you remember what we had on the list? I might say, I have no idea.
Right. So what do you mean by the list at the store?
Like a grocery list, like a shopping list.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm going to give you another one. Here's a tricky one for English. Speak of the devil.
So maybe if my mom and I are talking about my sister and she walks into the room, we could say, oh, speak of the devil, like we were just talking about you and now here you are.
Yes. So anytime that you're talking about somebody who's not there, and then maybe they walk in the room or they call on the phone or whatever they do, then you can say, oh, speak of the devil. In other words, we were just speaking of them. It sounds kind of weird because the devil might be, you might think of, oh, speak of a negative thing, but we don't mean it in a negative way at all. Okay, I'm going to do one last one. Ready? You're kidding.
That's a cool one. So maybe if someone says a fact that's really
unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. And you're like, wow, you're kidding. Like, really? That's the fact?
Right, exactly. You could use it in that way. Or another way you can use it is that, like, I don't really believe you. So let's say Tiana tells me something that I'm not sure I really believe it. I can say, are you kidding?
Yeah.
It's a little change in the wording, but it's the same thing. Are you kidding? In other words, I don't really believe you.
Yeah. Or you could say it another way to mean kind of like seriously, or like disappointment almost. Okay. So maybe you're at work and there's someone that you've been having trouble with, and someone tells you that they stole your idea at work. You could say, oh, you're kidding me.
Or even just how we said it. Oh, you're kidding. In other words, you can't believe it, and you're kind of upset or angry that they did that. Yeah. So it's yeah.
Or even if, like, there's so many ways you could say it, but you might hear it if people are like gossiping, and someone says something interesting, they'll be like, you're kidding.
So what's gossip?
If someone's saying something about someone else who isn't there,
which is not a good idea.
Nice,
Don't talk about people who aren't in the room.
Yeah.
But let's say somebody is doing that and you're surprised about what they're saying, then you could say,
you're kidding.
Yeah, and see the facial expression, the tone, and everything. So yeah, there's several ways you could use this phrase. This is a great way to practice some of the phrases we've shared in other videos.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially, you can play this again with two people who are learning the same language, or on a conversation exchange where you're both learning different languages. As an example, this list has the Spanish on one side and the English on the other side, but there's many ways that you could play this game. So, okay, so that's it for today. Do you have other ways that you like to learn a second language? Leave it in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.